So let's just dive right into it. Was Albert Einstein an atheist, or did you believe in God? You hear both sides all the time, but the real answer, well, it's so much more fascinating than a simple yes or no. It really gives us a peek into the mind of a genius as he's grappling with the biggest questions in the universe.
On one hand, you've got prominent atheists like Richard Dawkins, who've basically claimed Einstein for their team. And their argument is that whenever Einstein said the word God, he was just being poetic, using it as a metaphor for the sheer beauty and majesty of nature, not some actual supernatural being.
And that argument makes a certain amount of sense, right? Well, not so fast, because that's where you run headfirst into the central puzzle of this whole debate. Einstein's own words, which were very, very specific about what he believed.
Check this out. In a telegram from 1929 that's now pretty famous, he laid it out plain and simple. I believe in Spinoza's God. Now that's not some vague metaphor. That's a direct shout-out to a very specific philosophical idea. And this, right here, is the key to our whole investigation. So what on earth is Spinoza's God? Okay, so to really get a handle on the God Einstein did embrace, we first have to get crystal clear about the one he spent his entire life, well, repeatedly and forcefully rejecting. He had absolutely zero time for the idea of a personal, human-like God. The kind of God who listens to your prayers, meddles in human history, and is up there keeping score of all your good and bad deeds. To him, that whole idea was just completely unbelievable. And he wasn't shy about it. He called that concept naive, a reflection of human frailty. Basically, he saw it as an idea rooted in fear and wishful thinking. A God that was modeled on our own human emotions? For Einstein, that was something he just could not take seriously. Right. So if he completely threw out the personal God of traditional religion, what was this Spinoza's God he kept talking about? This all goes back to a philosopher from the 17th century named Baruch Spinoza. His big idea was that God isn't some separate creator outside the universe. God is the universe. God is the elegant, rational structure of the cosmos itself, the sum total of all the laws of nature. It's a philosophical idea, not a religious one. And when you put them side by side like this, the difference is it's night and day. A personal God is one you pray to. Spinoza's God is a cosmic order you try to understand with science and math. One is all about faith, the other is about a deep, profound sense of awe for how rational the universe is. Einstein had this absolutely beautiful way of explaining this feeling, what he called his cosmic religious feeling. He said to imagine humanity as a little kid walking into a gigantic library. We can see there's this magnificent, mysterious order to how all the books are arranged, even if we can barely begin to understand it. That feeling of awe, for him, that was a deeply religious experience. And this belief in a rational, orderly universe, well, it brings us to one of his most famous quotes, and probably one of his most misunderstood. It's not really a statement about theology, but it perfectly shows you the kind of God he believed in. He wrote this in a letter to another physicist, Max Born, way back in 1926. And when he says he, let's be super clear, he is not talking about some being in the sky gambling. He's talking about the fundamental nature of that cosmic order he was so in awe of.
See, the crucial point here is that Einstein was a determinist, through and through. He believed in cause and effect. For him, Spinoza's God was that complete law and order of the universe. Playing dice was his metaphor for the randomness and pure chance that was at the heart of the new quantum theory. He just couldn't bring himself to believe that the sublime, perfect harmony he saw everywhere would just dissolve into a cosmic game of chance at the tiniest level.
So the picture seems pretty consistent, right? Awe for the universe's order, but a total rejection of a personal God. And then, a piece of evidence comes to light that, at first glance, seems to just shatter everything.
So let's look at the timeline. In 1954, just 1 year before he passed away, Einstein wrote this incredibly candid private letter to a philosopher named Eric Goodkind. And in it, he gives us his final, unvarnished thoughts on religion. In this letter, he is absolutely blunt. He says the word God is for him nothing more than the expression and product of human weaknesses. Whoa, that sounds a whole lot different from his talk about a superior mind revealed in the world. And he doesn't stop there. He goes on to dismiss the Bible as a collection of honorable, but still primitive legends that are pretty childish. He even described his own Jewish religion as an incarnation of the most childish superstitions. I mean, these are incredibly strong words. So, what gives? Does this mean he was an atheist after all? Did he completely reverse course at the end of his life? How can you possibly square this with his lifelong belief in Spinoza's God, the God of harmony and order? Well, here's the thing. There is no contradiction. Not at all. It all clicks perfectly into place when you look very carefully at the two different concepts of God he was talking about his whole life, the one he rejected and the one he embraced. And this slide just lays it out perfectly. The God letter was his final, no-holds-barred rejection of the personal God of organized religion, the one he had always called naive and childish. It doesn't contradict one bit his deep admiration for the philosophical God, of cosmic order and sublime harmony, the one he got from Spinoza. You see, these two ideas aren't at odds with each other. They're two sides of the exact same coin. They form a single consistent worldview that he held his entire adult life. He rejected dogma and superstition, while, at the same time, embracing a profound, almost spiritual reverence for the elegant order of the universe. And in the end, really, who could label him better than the man himself? In a letter from his final years, he came up with the absolute perfect description for his own beliefs. He called himself a deeply religious non-believer, and in just 5 words, he captured the entire beautiful complexity of his view. So he shrugged off the simple labels of believer and atheist, and instead he left us all with a much more profound thought to chew on. Maybe, just maybe, the deepest wellspring of scientific discovery isn't certainty, but a humble, awe-filled reverence for a universe that is so much more mysterious and magnificent than we can possibly imagine.